This video is going to be a quick review of linear functions and arithmetic sequences. So first with linear equations. One way you can write linear equations is by putting it into standard form. Standard form for a linear equation would be ax plus by equals c. Now with standard form, a, b, and c must be integers, and a has to be a positive integer. So if we have fractions involved, we need to remove those fractions by multiplying by the least common multiple in the denominator. So in our example here, we have y equals 2/3 x plus 1/2. So if I look at the denominators 3 and 2, the least common multiple of 3 and 2 is 6. So if I multiply every part by 6, I can remove the fraction. So 6 times y is 6y equals 6 times 2 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 times x is 4x plus half of 6 is 3. Now I need to get my x and y on the same side, but my x has to have a positive coefficient. Since it's already a positive coefficient, I do not want to move the x. That means I don't want this positive 3 here. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. And now I'm left with negative 3 plus 6y equals 4x. Now to get our y on the other side, I'm going to subtract 6y. And now I'm left with 4x minus 6y equals a negative 3. Now I can identify my a, which is always with my x term, so that's 4. My b is always with my y term, that's a negative 6. And my c, it's my constant, which will be a negative 3. And the last thing I want to go through is writing equations for the nth term, so finding a specific term of an arithmetic sequence. Now for an arithmetic sequence, the formula would be a subscript n equals a subscript 1, which is our first term, plus n minus 1 times the common difference, which that just means we're taking the first term and adding the common difference to the previous term. So here we have a sequence in letter A. It goes from negative 14, negative 8, negative 2 to 4. So that tells us we are adding 6 every time. So the common difference is 6. And if you can't see the pattern, one way to do that is just take the second term and subtract the first term from it. So negative 8 minus a negative 14 really means I'm adding 14, which gives us a positive 6. So our D would be 6. So on our first term is negative 14. So if we're going to find the 20th term, I'm going to put a 20 in for n because n represents the term. When I have the first term, which is negative 14, and then I'm going to add 20 minus 1 times the common difference of 6. So if I simplify this, I have a subscript 20 equals a negative 14 plus 20 minus 1 is 19. And then I have 19 times 6. 19 times 6 is 114. And if I subtract 14 from 114, the 20th term would give us 100. Second example here, we don't have a sequence, but we know what the third term is. So there are a couple ways you can do this, and I'll show you in both methods. So method 1 is we're going to use this formula and rewrite that to figure out what our first term is and then determine the 20th term from there. So this is really going to be our n, and this is going to be the term. So I'm going to use this top formula right here. So a subscript 3 is 7. So if I'm using the third term, I need to find the first term plus our n, which we have already identified as 3, minus 1 times the common difference of negative 2. So now I have 7 equals a subscript 1, and then 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. So I have a subscript 1 minus 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and the first term is 11. Now if the first term is 11, I can substitute it back into this original equation. So I'd have a subscript n equals the first term of 11 plus n minus 1 times negative 2. And if I were going to use this, write an actual equation for this one, a linear equation, I'm going to distribute the negative 2. So I would have a subscript n equaling negative 2 times n is negative 2n. Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. 2 plus 11 is 13. So my equation would be a subscript n equals negative 2n plus 13. And then I can use that to find the 20th term. So a subscript 20 would equal negative 2 times 20 plus 13. Negative 2 times 20 is negative 40. And negative 40 plus 13 would give us a negative 27. So the 20th term would equal a negative 27. Now another way we can solve this is using the point-slope formula. And the point-slope formula would be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now with this number right here would be our x1, and this number here would be our y1. And then here would be our slope of m. So if I did y minus 7 equals the slope of negative 2 times, and then I would have x minus 3. And if I simplify this, I would have y minus 7 equals a negative 2x plus 6. To get y by itself, I'm going to add 7. And we would have y equals a negative 2x plus 13, which is the same equation as I have right over here. So now we can use that again to simplify. So y equals negative 2 times 20 plus 13, and we already know that y would equal a negative 27, or that means our 20th term would be negative 27. So hopefully that will help you when you're writing equations from slope-intercept form to standard form, and then also using slope-intercept form or a linear function to write an arithmetic sequence in finding a specific term.